Alright guys, Fulu coming to you with another video. Hope y'all are doing good. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, during this Ramadan and stuff like this, just thinking like why am I still adhering to this system, and also, what the distinguishing qualities of the system compared to other things that are available. Well, thing is that, for one, I'm Torodbe Fulani. There's different kinds of Fulani. There's like Orojo Fulani, Fulagita, there's Wasulu. There's just different types of Fulanis, but they all fit in the category of what we call Halpular. And what Halpular means is just basically those who speak Pular. So that's number one. That's like number one. Pulaku is part of our thing, and part of Pulaku is Islam. So I look at it and I say, well, when you look at African history, the Torodo were the ones who started revolution. They were rebellious by nature against, orders of the day, which were doing things like, I want to say, exploiting people, taxation, taking people's land, requiring people to be in the army, and also slavery. The thing is that a lot of these fake conscious woke people like to do is they like to paint the card that, Islam enslaved Africans and stuff like that, not realizing that Islam was a response to pagan Africans who were following their quote-unquote African spirituality, who basically kicked off the slave trade. So when they do things like that and say things like that, it's just like, you're only making yourself look even worse because of the simple fact that you guys started it. And I'm talking about these would-be Pan-Africans and these would-be fake woke people who use that argument. It's like, you guys started it, we finished it. You know what I mean? We're the ones who finished that. The ones who finished it, of course, are the ones who I adhere to in their interpretation. The Ahmadu Bambas and the Uthman Damfodio, his son Mohammed Bello, and his brother Abdullahi Bello, and their cadre, So when they use that argument, it's just like, you're using that argument, but you're disregarding the fact that you guys were the ones who started it. So that's why it's like null and void to me when they say that. Because one slave, as a matter of fact, you have to understand something. How did Muslim slaves end up in the Caribbean? How did Muslim slaves end up in all parts of the Americas if it wasn't for pagan Africans who quote unquote practicing African spirituality who enslaved them? So another thing too is one slave in the Americas by the name of Omar ibn Said, rahmatullah alayh. His whole thing was that some heathen Africans captured him, put him on a big boat, okay? Heathen, meaning pagan, meaning the ones that you guys claim to follow about African spirituality and all this jibber jabber, which you guys don't know anything about, okay? And don't have any basis for what you believe in. So, you know, Omar ibn Said was just one of their casualties. Rahmatullah alayh. Another reason why I look at it is because the discipline that it takes to do the things that you have to do, and that leads to results most of the time. You have to be very disciplined to abstain from things that are permissible, like food. You have to be disciplined to abstain from things that are otherwise permissible, like sexual intercourse and drink, things like that. You know, that's a new level of discipline, right? Especially if you're active. So I look at that and I say that, you know, that discipline leads to being disciplined in other things. And that helps a lot. Now, the ultimate challenge is being able to keep up with that discipline after Ramadan. That's the ultimate challenge, because if you look at Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, you feel it in the air. The nights are more tranquil. It's just a more relaxed feeling. You definitely feel it in the air. But keeping that is like the ultimate challenge. Doing that afterward is the ultimate challenge. You know, keeping that momentum afterward is very hard to do. It's very difficult to do. Because there's someone who said that in order to like cultivate habits, one has to do something for 40 days in order for it to be a habit. So Ramadan is only 30 days. So in those next 10 days, you have to take your good habits that you develop and cultivate them through the rest of those days. Another reason why I follow it is because of the unity in which it offered. When the slaves were kidnapped into America and their faith were their common ground, they didn't look at if you were, oh man, he's a Mandinka, oh man, he's a Yoruba, oh man, he's a Hausa, oh man, he's a Fula, oh man, he's a Soninke. They didn't look at that. They looked at the fact that, look, we're in the same jam together. We're enslaved. We don't got our freedom. We got to fight for our freedom. We got to kick it off. So here you have an instance in different parts of the Americas where groups of slaves from different geographical areas were united in one single cause, and that was freedom. So it transcended tribes, right? But what do we have now? So much tribalism. Maybe one day we can get back to those things, you know? And one thing too, I must say, and I must add this too, is that by nature, the jet black African Muslim is the most rebellious, rebel insurgent that you will find in the Americas. They were the ones who would kick off the slave revolts. They were the ones who would plot to poison the masters. They were the ones who wrote out blueprints for war. They were the ones who flew to the mountains, developing poisons, learning medicine, herbalism, getting involved in the occult. The misconception about that people make about the African version of Islam is that it's some kind of Arab religion, where that is the farthest thing from the truth. Because what the Africans did, what we did is we consolidated our traditional belief system and just put it in there, and still kept the spiritual things, and still kept them in the forms of just litanies, in the forms of just certain verses, in the forms of poetry. And that's another thing. I've said this before, is that my spiritual guide, one of them, Sheikh Ahmed Obama, Rahmatullah alayh, he's the most prolific writer in the religion. And here you have a jet black African who's the most prolific writer, who wrote 7 tons of poetry that had to do with different subjects, be it grammar, be it philosophy, be it just praising something. He covered all the grounds. 7 tons of it. Nobody's ever did that. And nobody will ever do that. So that's another reason why. It's like, who does that with their own hand? Some of the writings we don't even know of. That's the thing. Like, some of the writings are very, we don't even know where they are. You know, he had that many writings. Another thing too, and this is not being a simp, this is just the esteem it have for women. You know, a lot of the great scholars of Africa, a lot of their first teachers were women, were their mothers, were their grandmothers. A lot of the time, you have women who were esteemed teachers who are highly learned, okay? This is opposite of what you see with these Jezebels who go on cock carousels, who talk about they're enlightened, who talk about they're spiritually in tune, who talk about, you know, their guides and their divine light and all this other stuff, and goddesses. These women, these women that I'm talking about would not blink a second eye at the women that we see. In fact, they would show them major pity. They would be like, what's the deal with them? You know? So this is why I say, like, man, it really doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. You know, you say one thing, but your actions prove another thing. You know? Talk about being divine and all this other stuff. But if you're divine, you usually don't talk about it. It shows in your actions. It shows in your deeds. It shows in just how you carry yourself. You know? Another thing that the women did, because this is not by any means, you know, trying to be like a simp. This is by no means trying to play the simp card. But another thing that the women did was, the fact of the matter is that the spiritual masters said that the quickest way to get to God and proximity to the Most High is through a woman. These were high caliber women, meaning that they not only saw the potential in their men, but they helped their men utilize that potential. And I'm talking about not only in the scholarly realm, not only in the spiritual realm, but in the realm of struggle. When the slave trade really kicked off. The thing is that when the slave trade really kicked off, you did have women who got captured, okay? You did have them, but not in the numerous numbers that you had men get captured. But for the women who did get captured, a lot of the time, they would help raise like a cadre of men who would revolt. And that's the reason why, like, it makes sense. It makes sense to keep this, you know what I mean? Because of the esteem it does bring women when it's done in a sound, correct way, you know? So, furthermore, to take it a step further, And I'm going to end on this note because I really don't got anything else to say about it. But you look at revolutions, and I'm talking about black revolutions, and 9 times out of 10 there is some kind of African Islamic influence behind it. For example, you look at the Haitian Revolution, and I still, really am trying to dig deep for more information. But the forefathers of the Haitian Revolution and troops, insurgents in the Haitian Revolution were what we call marabout. And what a marabout is, it's like a warrior monk. It's basically a warrior monk. And so you had marabout, and 2 of the most famous marabout were Francois Macandal, who was Mande speaking, but was also in touch with the other spiritual sciences, meaning like the secret occult sciences. He knew those as well. That's how he was like, a marabout also means like a holy man, but in this case, he was a holy warrior because he not only had the spiritual aspect, but he had the warrior aspect as well. So that's where you get the name marabout from. And so Macandal, he actually was able to kind of predict the future. But I don't know if he predicted the future that Haiti would be, unfortunately, damaged by U.S. imperialism. Although it helped everybody. It helped every single person you can think of. The Haitian Revolution, it just helped everybody. But it's just, unfortunately, under that imperialism, because the thing is about the Haitian Revolution is that the Haitians not only with the French, they with the Spanish, and they with the British too. But who was responsible for spearheading it or starting with the idea to fight for freedom? Francois Macandal, Marabout. And then you have Duty Boukman, another Marabout. And so he was in touch with the occult as well. And his mother, Cecile Fatima, is the one who put that engine in him. You know what I mean? Again, it goes with the women folks. The women folks empowering their men. The women folks like really giving them that engine needed to succeed. And so that just goes to show you that, from the opposite of what we see today with most of these women, and I'm talking about the Western women mostly, and even these fake woke women, is that they actually empowered their men. The women who are under the system I adhere to, they actually empowered their men. They actually made their man strive for results. They put that engine in them. And that's a good thing. That's what a woman is for. A woman is to balance their man. And so that's what they did. And so with that being said, that's another reason why. It's the simple fact that it just like kicked off many revolutions. I mean, 2 of the forerunners again came from Muslim West Africa. Duty Boukman, Macandal, and a lot of others. A lot of others were front line in the revolution. When the French killed the Haitians in that revolution, they found Arabic pieces of paper, with prayers on them. That just goes to show you the influence was there too. You have Bahia. I don't need to talk about that. Everybody knows about the Bahia revolts and how that kicked off and how that actually led to Africans being deported back to Africa because they kicked it off so much, the Portuguese were like, man, we can't deal with them. They're too much, you know. That's what happened. Look at you know, all through the Caribbean though, Dominica, you know, they had a Maroon revolt. The head honcho was I think his name was Musa or Bala, something like that. I think it was Bala. I believe it was Bala. He was from, again, Senegambia. You know what I mean? So all through the Caribbean, you had that element, you know? And most of the time, I'm sorry to say it, but they were the ones who kicked off revolts the most. I mean, I'm not saying that traditional pagan Africans didn't kick off revolts, but for the most part, it seems like over 50% were kicked off by African Muslims, you know? So that just goes to show you something right there. You know, I like the fact that literacy is such an important thing. You know, having literacy is very, very important. So reading, knowledge, studying, and applying that knowledge is so important. You know, and that's what I like. Whereas, like, you have this fake woke community, like, they just talk big mumble jumble words, but what do they apply? Nothing. They just talk to hear themselves talk most of the time, and it's like, okay, well, it sounds good. But yeah, that's the other thing, you know, I gotta say about that. You know, so that's another reason. And back to the fact that pretty much every black African or black radical movement had that element in it. Even the EPLF had that element in it as well. But what started the initial Haitian Revolution was the simple fact that a Muslim Eritrean shot an Ethiopian soldier first. Okay, that just shows that it kick-started revolution again. So, you know, you look at Malcolm X and his movement. You can't separate Muslim from Malcolm X. You know what I mean? Even Marcus Garvey's teacher was a Muslim. You know? So while these hoteps like bash Islam and stuff like that, it's like they hold no weight. And when they're bashing it, they hold no weight whatsoever. It's like funny to me. It's jokes. You look at the Black Panther Party, even. Quiet as kept. Algeria, a majority Muslim and a majority Arab African nation, actually gave the Black Panthers refuge. Casbah. The Black Panthers were actually in Algeria. Okay? So, although Arabs do act crazy and act arrogant and act haughty and stuff like that, there have been times in history where they recognize who they really are. Okay? So my question for all you conscious and woke people is, did you guys set up a Casbah for the Black Panthers or a revolutionary movement? Did you guys set up a place of worship or a place of refuge for them? Do you guys have that going on? Or do you guys have a series of scandals like Malachi Z. York and people like of that nature that did nothing but damage their communities? Let me know. Let me know if you set up a base of operations for a movement like the Black Panthers. Let me know in the comment section, please. And thank you. So, the Black Panther example, I mean, my own father's example, PAIGC, Amilcar Cabral. Without the Muslims in the ranks, there would be no success. Okay? And that just goes to show the integration that can be done. It's not about, oh, my thing is better than yours. It's not about that. It's about a common goal. Okay? And it's about working together for that common goal, which my system encourages. Not being at each other's throats all day. So that's the one thing and that's the reason why I stick to it. But then also, it's just really, man, that Haitian Revolution is really what got me. You know, that's how I know that that this thing had some power to it. You know, although Haiti is mad, like in a compromising situation, the fact that they were able to set up what they set up with little means to do so is an incredible story. And to know that it was spearheaded by two West African Muslims is what really does it for me. And you know, that's just all I got. Sorry to say it, but traditional African religions and stuff like that, and those who adhere to it or think they practice some sort of form of higher spirituality, you guys are, sorry to say it, but you guys are batil. And what I mean by that, you guys have no proofs to what you guys are doing. Like, you guys really don't have no proofs. And it's like, the thing is about it is that, you know, with the from my perspective, we consolidated that. We consolidated all of that stuff that you guys talk about and incorporated it into our thing. We just refined it. You know what I mean? I mean, there's certain things I can't talk about on camera on this YouTube stream that have to do with the supernatural and have to do with being in touch with the supernatural, but I can't like mention it right now. You know, I can't talk about it because it's just something that it's just those are certain things that you don't talk about, you know. But anyhow, man, I was just reflecting. I just wanted to get that off, you know. And yeah, man, it's just one of those reflections for today. But anyhow, man, that's all I got for now. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments. Foolish signing out. Njara, man.